Hey everybody, welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm your boy Abram, joined by my very special but always present co-host Tucker Hazel. No less special to me, but we are here for a very, very special day because Donkey Kong Country Returns HD has launched on the
Yippee!
Nintendo Switch,
That's what everyone's talking
uh,
about
and
this morning.
and at the same time, Nintendo decided to announce the Nintendo Switch
Yeah.
2, and we got a 2.5 minute trailer. I almost said full of information.
No.
I think we're going to get a discussion's
Yes.
worth of information out of it, but it wasn't full of it.
No.
So we're going to get into that. We're going to
It was
get
full of
into
animation, Abram.
it was full of animation, not
That
information,
that ends with the
animation.
same suffix, so we're partly there.
That's true. That's very true. Tucker, let's just get into it. Let's start high. Let's start 40,000 feet in the air. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How excited are you? Turn off any analysis. How excited are you personally?
Can I use the word relieved? Can I use the word relieved that
You,
it
you can
finally
use
happened?
what
I would
I'm
say
not going to kill you.
I
You
would
can use
say
whatever word
low
you want.
excitement, a high
Sure.
satisfaction, high relief.
Sure.
But this trailer was completely any impact it possibly could have had was completely kneecapped by maybe the most leaks I've ever had happened about a single piece of hardware ever
Yeah.
in the history of the games industry. There is some information in here that is surprising, as I certainly want to get to, and
Yes.
I think it gets more surprising as it goes. there's
Yeah,
just
sure.
little tidbits of
Sure.
information that continue to be spooled out over the course of this 2.5 minute trailer that keyed me in more and more. Like, okay, oh, this is kind of interesting. This is kind of interesting, and it builds and builds. But overall, it's like, oh, it happened. It's real. Like
Yeah,
we're
that's fair.
the year and a half wait of every month and every week and every leak and every insider is done. We now
Yeah.
have a date for when we're going to get more information. We have a general time frame of when things are going to be happening. We have in just a couple weeks, we have Nintendo's investor meeting. We're going to get Legends of ZA information. The information train has left the station and delivered straight to our brains. And so that is just a massive, massive relief, especially after the last, 6 weeks have just been, they've been taught. Everyone in the community has been
Yeah.
taught.
No, absolutely. I mean, ultimately, my 40,000 feet opinion is I don't give a fuck at any of this stuff leaked. I don't care at all. I mean, it's a Nintendo system. It's the best news I could possibly get on a
Yeah.
day, right? There's
Yeah.
nothing. This isn't even really
There's
a
this, and
joke.
then
I don't
there's,
think.
your grandmother's cancer was cured. I don't know. By the way, I don't think your grandma has cancer. I'm just pulling something
My
else.
grandma does not have cancer,
But if she
but
did,
in
and it was healed, it would be pretty good, but it wouldn't be a Switch 2.
no, it would. Yeah, and she doesn't have cancer, so I can say
Yeah.
this. You know, I can imagine that this. I can say that this is true and not feel too bad about it.
It would be crazy if
Um,
that's how I found out your grandma had cancer. That would
yeah,
have
that
been.
would put a weird cloud over the video.
Continue.
Um, yeah, so I'm just so excited. There's really not much more to it from me than that at this point.
Sure.
Obviously, there's things we can get into. We can now actually kind of give our thoughts on what we have been known and been
Yeah,
discussing
yeah.
with Bo and
Mm-hmm.
everybody for months, which is sort of
Because
the
we haven't
form
made any
factor, the
videos
aesthetic.
about Switch 2, actually.
I haven't talked about any of the leaks.
No.
So ultimately,
We're not grifters.
no, we're not grifters. No. Um, so yeah, I'm just over the moon. That's the long and short of it. But let's talk about this in sort of a more specific way now.
Yeah.
Or actually, let's not do that.
What?
Let's let's talk about something general,
Okay.
which is the date,
Oh,
the release
sure.
date for the system, which is
Yeah,
2025.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And I think this is the other sort of high level part of this conversation to have before we talk a little bit more specifically, as much as we can, about the hardware and about
Mm-hmm.
the Mario Kart game that's shown off.
Yeah.
Nintendo is keeping things very vague at this point. We know that there is on April 2nd a Nintendo Direct presentation specifically about Switch 2.
Crazy,
The
man.
rumor is it's going to be, yeah, it's a while away, but the rumor from the same people who clocked today's event is that there is a Switch 1 Focus Direct first. Obviously, Pokemon
Oh,
Presents
that'll be nice.
first.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's going to, so I think that sort of contextualizes that long distance until April. And I tend to believe these things now that, this, against all odds,
Yeah,
happened.
definitely. Yeah.
But the important thing here, though, is that we are kind of operating on the assumption of a April or May release for the system,
Yeah.
just based on all the information. And it's certainly possible that
I don't think it is, actually.
well, here's what I want. Here's the reason I think it is possible.
Okay.
I think it's possible just in the sense of it was what 6 weeks
Yeah, yeah.
between the January event and the launch, 6 weeks in the first week of April could be you could push it to the very end of May.
You could,
However,
but do you know the same
but I don't
information that
think
I know?
no.
Because there's a reason where
But
it certainly cannot be May. There
oh,
are
go
confirmed
ahead.
around the world dates, which we'll talk about, of hands-on presentations in America, in Europe, in Asia, and the farthest one out is in Seoul, from May 31st to June 1st. And there is no way that they're going to release the console before they're finished doing the world across the world hands-on demos. So I think
Yeah,
mid-June is the earliest we could possibly see it.
that's a really good point. I hadn't considered that.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think here's what
And actually,
I don't think
they
it's
still have to be announced Hong Kong and Taipei. I don't know if those would necessarily slot somewhere in the middle or even maybe further into June. But June 1st is the latest confirmed date
yeah.
that we have for when people will be playing essentially demo units of Switch 2.
Nintendo also sort of has to operate differently in Hong Kong and China
Mm-hmm.
and everything, so I'm not surprised that those are
Yeah,
being
yeah.
handled separately. But that's a good point. I don't think it's impossible that the system is out when that happens.
Sure.
However,
Yeah.
I agree with you that I don't think that's likely. I've been saying for a long time, and I wavered on it, but maybe I should have stuck to my guns of
Mm-hmm.
like a September launch.
Yeah.
Um, there was an interesting story I didn't get a chance to read because obviously we're recording this hot on the heels of the trailer coming out. But Bloomberg is reporting that Nintendo that the sort of analysts the information they have suggests that Nintendo is reporting stock of 20 million units for the first calendar year.
Yeah. Wow. Which I think would
Uh,
be almost close to double what Switch 2 sold in its first year. I think there was something like 12 million units in the first year of
in
Switch.
in the calendar year it did 4.5.
Yeah.
So that was March to December. I don't know what those next 3 months did. Either way, it is a significant increase, and so a lot of the reason for people saying, well, it's going to have to be an imminent release is that they have the stock to hand. It's in
Yeah.
warehouses. But I think when you read a story like that, when you raise the point you're raising about the dates of these showtimes, I think that in reality, Nintendo is just simply planning for a massive, massive, massive period. And so they're going to stockpile those units as long as they need to. So I'm
Yep.
just going to say, on prediction here, I think this system is going to launch in September,
I think that
and I
is
shouldn't have
a
wavered
safe
on it.
enough bet. Yeah. Well, uh, I yeah, it's interesting. I think I,
There's precedent for
I think
June.
July. I think June or July probably would make most sense, just given the cadence of where information is coming out now. Though, of
Yeah,
course, we're really operating under the um, information that we gleaned from Switch One's launch and to
yeah,
announce to release cadence, which was a really tight turnaround from the January presentation, which we can assume the April one kind of mirrors that, and then we have April through the beginning of June, as far as we know, hands-on demos, and so I would say 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks after that is not ridiculous. Like that's like okay, everyone's played it. The information has been out for
yeah,
months at that point, and so I think it's very possible that it's a summer release. But I don't think that I think most people are gonna look at you when you say September and be like, no, 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 no,
yeah.
it has to be summer. It could very easily be a fall release.
But yeah, I mean, because ultimately, early enough in September is still summer, but you should be shoved in the locker for saying that.
Yes.
Um, the other thing is that there is precedent for a June release of Nintendo hardware. Actually, a fair bit of precedent for North American releases of like DS, and if you go all the way back to Game Boy, GBA. So that could happen. I don't actually know. Someone can let me know in the comments if Nintendo's ever released any hardware in July, for instance.
Sure. Yeah.
My kind of feeling is that it's either June or September. I
Mm-hmm.
err on the side of September at this point.
Sure.
But again, the other piece of concrete information we have looking down the road is this April 2nd Direct, which is obviously where we're going to get the full launch lineup. We're going to get the price. We're going to get everything. I just saw on Twitter, literally as we were beginning to record, that I think Best Buy is taking like signups for Switch pre-orders. Obviously, you can't do the pre-order, but you can like sign up to get a slot for a pre-order,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems to indicate that the pre-orders will open in April, which is
That
no
makes sense.
surprise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you could pre-order Switch. I think I pre-ordered my Switch the weekend after that January
Yeah.
event, if I
That
remember
sounds about right.
correctly.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's kind of all we know down the road. Um, let's talk sort of more specifically now about the hardware
Mm-hmm.
and about Mario Kart. So obviously, Tucker, to most people who will be watching this video who are dialed into the Nintendo community, the presentation in terms of the hardware didn't really reveal much that we didn't know.
No.
It's a larger unit.
Yeah.
The Joy-Con attach magnetically
Mm-hmm.
into the sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a mysterious second button on this Joy-Con beneath the home button.
Yep.
Um, and that's kind of what we got here.
Yeah.
There's a wider kickstand. The
Mm-hmm.
kickstand can.
Charging
I said it could
port on the
go further.
top.
Yeah, I said it could go further back, but that's not even true
No.
because I can do
No.
this with my OLED right
Yeah.
now.
But
Um,
it's hollow. I don't know. I don't really know how much of a difference that makes. It's just an interesting design decision. They changed it.
they probably need like those millimeters of extra space for like more shit inside the
Oh,
system or
sure. I
something.
see what you're saying.
Is
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
assumption.
With the shell,
But
yeah.
what do you make of all of it? What do you make of the form factor?
I think this is going to be it's going to be really fascinating to get our hands on it and feel how different it is. I think at first
Yeah,
glance and from what they've shown, it does seem like there are a lot of small design decisions that are changed. And what I predict is that we're going to get our hands on it. It's going to the OS is going to be faster. It's going to feel a little bit more stable, and we're going to look back at the original Switch model and even the Switch OLED to an extent and be like, wow, like I can't believe that there was like that many like little weird design decisions that made the Joy-Con feel weird and like it slid into the dock like differently and like I think it's going to feel a lot more substantial once we have it.
yeah,
But as of now, it's like it's 90% of it is the same. I think those
yeah,
10% will make a substantial difference in it feeling like a more premium product with a little bit more attention paid to its design and like it seems like a lot of refinement to where I do feel like it's going to feel like a substantial upgrade once we have it, but nothing that we've seen is like, oh man, I can't wait to do this. I think it's just going to be an experiential thing where like, okay, this is really solid, clearly put a ton of work into this and listen to feedback
yeah.
from, literally a decade's worth of working on this set of designs.
100%. I mean, I the jury's out for me if I'll find it more comfortable
Sure.
because I already like the Switch OLED to me is like this is about as big as I want my handheld to get.
Yeah.
But obviously, I'm in the minority on that
Yeah.
point. People want these systems to keep getting bigger, and I understand why.
You could
So
wait
I'll
a
be
few years
curious
for a
to.
mini.
It's a funny joke. If the launch
Imagine
switches were
if
all
you did though.
Tucker, if the launch
Just a
switches were
slight
all
thing.
covered in a fine layer of acid that burned into your skin when you picked it up, I'd still buy one of those
Yeah.
instead of waiting for a revision. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I'm curious to see how it feels in the hand. I think that's a great point you raise. I'm, I think my disappointment with this showcase, not that I'm disappointed in the main, like I said, I'm over the moon, but
Yeah.
my specific disappointment was that when we learned that it was going to be hardware focused, my hope was that the result of that, when we learned that from the leak, my hope was that we are going to see in a little bit more detail the mouse functionality.
Yeah.
If people aren't
There's
familiar,
like a
the
hint of
the
it.
leaks, yeah, there's a hint of it with the Joy-Con sort of running across
Yeah.
the ground like they're mice. It's not that subtle because
Yeah.
they've even got a tail with little Joy-Con straps. So
Yeah.
I think Nintendo's having a little bit of fun there, and we'll learn more about that in the proper presentation. But I was hoping to see more stuff like that. I was sort of hoping to get some sort of idea of why the top USB-C port is useful.
Mm-hmm.
I get that most likely it's just going to be for charging while in tabletop mode, and it's a
Correct. Yeah.
smart feature.
Mm-hmm.
But USB-C is a very versatile input type, and I would love, if there was a camera attachment is something I think via patents people were speculating about. Like if
Mm.
that was something I would have loved to see in that, I would have loved to see like the Pro controller. If there was a headphone jack, like there are hardware related questions that I was hoping that we get answered that weren't answered today.
Yeah.
So ultimately, my thoughts on the form factor are it sure is bigger, um, and beyond that, I think that a lot of these sort of real ergonomic, real use case things that I want to know about,
Yeah.
we just don't know about yet. Because the
Totally.
other thing is, and mentioned this to you when it was just leaks, but a Joy-Con as it stands is pretty. I mean, it's not that wide, but
No.
it looks wider the actual like main body
Mm-hmm.
portion than the Switch 2 Joy-Con because those rails stick out probably 6 times further than
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Very
current
small
rail
rails.
system
Yeah.
does. So I think they'll feel about the similar width in the hand,
Sure.
but the buttons, I don't know if they're narrower. You said that maybe the whole thing's just scaled up. I simply want to see this in somebody's hands.
Yeah.
So I don't really have any great opinions, I think, on the form factor. I love how my Switch feels, and
Yeah.
I think the new one will either feel slightly worse, slightly better, or just about the same. I think.
I love that slate of options that you proposed, but I really don't think there's any reason for us to think that it would feel worse. I think that
Sorry, I mean personally, if it's too big for me,
oh,
personally.
okay, sure. Well, I'm actually curious on your thoughts on like specifically
Yeah,
bigger Joy-Con. Um,
yeah,
like whether that's in the grip or used like just like separate Joy-Con. I understand that the handheld form factor, you're something that someone that prefers something a
yeah,
little bit smaller, but I do think that on the whole, one of the biggest complaints about the Joy-Con is that they are some of the smallest controllers Nintendo's ever made, and so in general, even though handheld is obviously a massive part of the Switch's selling point, a massive part
yeah.
of the way that people use their Switches, I do think that in every other use case, bigger Joy-Con will just feel better to hold, whether that's in the grip or separately.
I think for split Joy-Con, you're totally right.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually find that my hands get a little cramped when I'm playing with them separate like
Yeah.
that. I do like working that way, but I mean, I don't have massive hands, but I don't have dainty little,
You got
you
you got
know.
pretty you got pretty big hands.
Yeah. So
Trust me.
the bigger you would know. There's many reasons why you would
Yeah.
know.
Continue.
I think for split Joy-Con that would be great. Um,
Oh, there
but
actually is one
yeah,
thing. I Because when you mentioned
go
the
ahead.
mouse thing, the sliding along across the ground, I went and I'm looking at the part of the trailer on my phone, um, where they do that animation. Because you're right, they do have uh, a strap on them, but there's not a external strap. It's hard for me to tell. It may just be for that animation, but
Yeah,
it kind of seems like these straps can be attached to the. No, actually, no. There is a really thin strap. It's not as outwardly substantial as the Joy-Con 1 strap, but it's also the same color as the blue and orange
yeah,
thing. It's an interesting design decision. To they look like they mimic the Joy-Con a little bit better, a little bit closer, which is just interesting. I just wanted to see what that strap looked like because
sure.
to your immediate eye, you're like, oh, there's not a strap on there, but it's because it's not a hard cut off color change to the black
Right.
Joy-Con strap that we're all used to. But I think my issue with how short this was, especially or how simple it was in comparison to the October
Yeah,
reveal of the first Nintendo Switch, is that there is still a lot of questions we have about the hardware, which I think is a little bit annoying.
yeah,
We don't know what button, if it's a back thing that like demagnetizes it and take it off. That the back thing also seems like it might be able to be used like in some sort of mouse function way. We don't know what the extra button on the right Joy-Con does. There are just a few things that I would have wanted them to delve into a little bit deeper, even if it
yeah,
was no like voiceover and just like people actually using this thing. You're right. We never saw it in people's hands, which I think gives it a little bit more of like an ethereal feel. What is this actually like? What does it actually physically look like? Because these are really
yeah,
high quality animated renders of the thing. But we, to this day, let's say like an hour since its reveal, we have yet to see a physical
yeah,
Switch 2, which I think is a little bit frustrating, especially given how like tangible and substantial the first Switch reveal trailer was, of like people using it in different scenarios and transferring it between handheld and tabletop and TV mode. In the Switch one, we saw what the Pro controller looks like. Presumably, there's another new Pro controller that has the extra buttons,
yeah,
might have analog triggers or something. I would have wanted to see that. I think that it's cool that they have this animation thing, but I wish that was inserted into something a little bit more tangible and a little bit
yeah.
more like it was actually showing off the real system rather than just like it feels like an Apple ad, really.
I mean, yeah. So it's interesting because it's not an unprecedented style of video for Nintendo in a
Hmm.
general sense. I was sharing on Twitter the other day this feature, like it's called like 3DS hardware features or whatever video Nintendo put out, where they're really carefully going through everything the 3DS can do. But a video like that was in much more detail than a
Yeah,
video like this. What this is I like a comparison to Apple. Um, I've gained a real appreciation for these kinds of promo renders
sure.
because we do a very little of it for work. So I'm
Yeah,
watching this, I'm like, I know how much goes into like a simple
Yeah.
turnaround shot of like a book. I can't even fucking imagine the work that went into animating this.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is beautiful, it's cool, it's slick, and I think it works well for social media. I think this will be a
Definitely.
very successful trailer for Nintendo, but it's not descriptive enough. I agree with you.
Yeah.
The but it's interesting also because the lifestyle I've been sort of referring to that October 2016 trailer as like a lifestyle trailer
Hmm.
because
Yeah. Oh,
that's what it
totally.
was.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think what Nintendo thought to themselves as well, the lifestyle application for this device is no different than Switch One's.
Yeah.
So we don't need to lead that way. However, I still don't think that just because that's the case means that this was the best way to go.
Hmm.
Because they also did those similar trailers for Switch Lite and Switch OLED. And I
Hmm.
think that simply visualizing the system in every sense, visualizing yourself owning one, visualizing you being that
Mm.
person on the bus or in the airport
Yeah.
or in your house, makes it more tangible. Even if we're already on board to buy the system,
Yeah.
just sort of having that, I think, is nice. Even Alarmo got a
Oh,
sort
totally.
of
Yeah.
trailer
Yeah.
in this style. So,
Hmm.
and by the way, I'm sure we'll get one in April, but I just
Yeah.
think that that's the best foot
Probably.
to put forward.
Probably.
Um,
It'll be really interesting to see what this April show
yeah,
is structurally, especially because the last time they did a hardware presentation, it was an in-person event with different presenters and obviously
and it wasn't a
translation.
direct.
And, you're right, and it wasn't a direct, but the edited format, especially with something like a lifestyle trailer being put in there, or
Yeah,
a little bit more like guest presenters from third-party companies. I don't know how long it's going to be because the longest Nintendo Direct I can remember is like 50 minutes or something like that. But you'd imagine that this is something even longer than that. I don't know if it really matters, like what patterns it's breaking or how it fits into the Direct format. It's just going to be
yeah,
like the most watched Nintendo Direct of all time, probably. So obviously I'm looking forward to that. But it's really interesting that they're locked into the direct format. They want to present things in this highly edited, professional way. They want to.
yeah,
I think they were very embarrassed by the way that the Switch presentation went in January because they were trying to put their best foot forward, and there was a lot of
yeah.
small technical things that ended up hurting the sort of professional feel of that. And so they're eschewing that completely. It's going to be obviously dubbed for the specific
Totally.
regions, so we're not going to need to have translation in the same way. And I also wonder how it's going to be paced like a direct because will they do in-depth presentations on each game once they show a trailer? Are they going to do a little demo of it like they did for One Two Switch
Yeah,
and Arms? Are they going to have the game's directors or producers come on screen afterward to talk about what we just saw? It's going to be, I think it's going to be a very different kind of Nintendo Direct, and that's exciting. But it's also like, ooh, what's this going to be?
it could be, or it could literally just be direct, and but the games are Switch games, and there's also a trailer for the Switch 2, and that's the only differentiating
Yeah, sure,
factor.
sure.
Because the reason I raise that is because you make a good point about what went wrong with the January 2017 presentation, and I think it's important to remember, particularly as like our in group, that that was not a particularly well received presentation at the
No, no,
time.
absolutely not.
Like I remember watching Kind of Funny after
Yeah,
it happened, and them just shitting on
yeah,
every
yeah,
element
yeah.
of it. And so
Colin
I
was
think you're
laughing
totally
like
right.
the entire reaction, like, oh man.
Yeah, yeah, and so I think you're totally right to raise the point that I'm sure that they took that on the chin,
Yeah.
and there's a reason why things are a little bit different this time.
And that was the
There's
last
also
in-person presentation I think Nintendo ever did, as of now.
e-
I mean,
well,
I
yeah,
guess there was like
unless you want to
treehouse
count like
things. Yeah, yeah,
treehouses,
yeah,
but in this sense, yes.
yeah.
Also, obviously, we're recording this hot after it was announced, but like Jason Schreier shared on Blue Sky. It's being circulated around now. He said, quote, if you're wondering, one reason to randomly drop a Switch 2 teaser 2.5 months ahead of the proper reveal would be to allow third-party companies to start officially announcing their games for
Yep,
the system.
yep. That's gonna be major. It's gonna be
Um,
major.
yeah. And
I would
so
not be
I think,
surprised if after the Xbox developer underscore direct in just like a week and a half, there's a
yeah,
press thing on their website that says some of these games are coming to Switch too. Like Doom
I
and
wouldn't
maybe South of Midnight could even be confirmed for Switch too.
I wouldn't be surprised if in that event they say Switch 2.
Oh, that's also possible. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if today we start getting games confirmed for Switch 2 from third
Oh, sure.
parties.
Oh, yeah. I think so. I think the smaller third parties probably. I think the more
Yeah.
major third parties for the games that are going to get a pop when they're revealed, they're saving that for directs. For also, I would hope partner showcase where we can really get a sense of what the scope of
Yeah.
third party support will be for this system. From what everything we've heard in terms of leaks, there seems to be almost everyone on board and lots of major ports coming. I think it's gonna be. I was talking to Bo about this the other day. I don't think there's going to be any like D tier reveals in Nintendo Direct anymore because everyone and their mother is putting their biggest games on Nintendo Switch, and so a Direct
Yeah.
is going to be the biggest or all the first party games, and then like in the middle it's going to be freaking Cyberpunk and like it's going to be like the biggest games filling in the middle portions of that. It's going to be really a different vibe than there's just like so much random nonsense in fucking Directs.
When you think about the format of the partner showcase, it was introduced sort of past the point of a lot of third-party games that come into Switch with any
Yeah.
sort of relevancy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, you have a big moment in a partner showcase, like the reveal of all the Persona games coming
Yeah.
over, or things like that. But by and large, I think what you're pointing to, moreover than just big games, is games that are exciting to have on Nintendo.
Yeah. Totally.
Because
Mm-hmm.
a game like Persona 5 is big, but I don't think came as that much of a surprise
Yeah.
eventually when it arrived.
Well,
But I
also
think it
because
will be
that
a
had already
surprise.
been ported to
Well,
Xbox at that point. Like
yeah.
if it had been revealed in that direct and was coming to everything, then that would have been crazy. But yeah, no, you make a great point about that.
Yeah, so we'll see how that unfolds. I'll be eagerly anticipating. I mean, the person I saw that tweet from is this guy Rebs Gaming, who does a lot of Xbox coverage, and he was saying, well, obviously for the event next week, this is important, but also show us that MCC trailer, Halo MCC trailer with Switch 2 stinger in there. But Tucker, let's talk
Is that the
now.
major
I want
Japanese franchise? that they're Let's talk now.
um let's talk a little bit just about the aesthetic of the system,
Sure.
very briefly.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's interesting because it's the color scheme that we're going with here as a sort of lead color scheme is more of a powder blue and like a pastel orange.
Yeah.
So it's not neon red and blue, but it's their cousins, right?
Oh, they're very
Um,
close. Yeah. Yeah.
and I think that that's interesting. I think it looks fine. I think that the neon colors look better. I
I
don't.
agree. Yeah. More personality at
This
least.
is Yeah, this is hyper subjective, but I don't really like how the system looks color wise. I think that the all black
Switch
looks
two.
sophisticated. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
That makes
I
sense. I we're
think
talking
and
about that today. I just want to clarify.
yeah, that. Sorry, that is important clarification. It could have been talking about anything.
Yeah.
Could have been talking about my water bottle. I
Sure.
don't actually really like this orange bit on top of my water bottle.
You could probably take it
Um,
off. To be honest, like a
then the
little
strap,
screwdriver, like a flathead
but then
screwdriver.
this would come off. Then the
Tape it
strap would
down.
come off. You see what I mean?
Glue it down. Hot glue.
I guess I could. I could get a big
Gorilla
rusty
glue.
nail and drive it to the top.
That's a
Wood
great point.
glue. I I think that the all black looks very sleek.
Yeah.
But I like that's not my preference
Yeah.
necessarily. I switched off because I got a gray Switch at launch is the only
Yeah.
one I could get.
Mhm.
I switched that for color Joy-Con as soon as I could, and I've always loved my crimson red DS Lite or
Oh,
my
sure.
aqua blue
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
3DS. So I do hope, and I think that the rumors are that there's at least like a white variant, which I'd probably go
Yeah.
for. But I would love if there was a more colorful
Yeah.
one
Yeah,
too.
it'll be interesting to see how they handle new colorways for Switch 2, especially in the launch
Yeah,
window. Um, if you recall, Switch October reveal was only the gray Joy-Con. The red and blue weren't even revealed until that January presentation. So it's possible that sort of near the
yeah,
end of the April showcase that we do see. I would say maybe two different sets of colors. Just give people
yeah,
some options, a couple more varieties on shelves. I'm not sold on the look so far. I'm sold on the console. I'm going to
yeah,
have a black system with like hints, like a Topo Chico-esque hint of flavoring with the blue and the orange. I don't know if I feel like those colors particularly go well together or scream Nintendo or anything, but it's also very new. I know
yeah.
my brain needs to really adapt to it. I need to have it in my hands. It needs to become iconic as people sort of associate these colors with Nintendo over the next couple years. But as of now, I think for me the biggest issue is that it's black with a hint of color. Like who does that? Like why? Like I don't
Yeah.
understand. But at the end of the day, whatever. Like it's not. It looks fine to me. I'm gonna have one and I'm gonna like it. I'm sure I'm gonna grow to appreciate it and find it iconic over time. But like my first blush reaction is
Yeah.
like why underneath the like why not make the joysticks colored or the buttons colored? Like it's like this. It's like it's hiding the fact that it's colored, which
Yeah,
sounds weird for me to say that, but like on the inside of it's on the inside of the actual console as well, which is crazy. There's
it
like
is it's peculiar.
yeah, I don't know, man.
It's in this portion. It's in the rail.
Yeah, and the rail itself, the rail and the
Yeah.
rail receiver, but notably when they slot together, you can't see the color at all. So it's just like,
Yeah.
why are you hiding the fact that you've got these funny colors for me?
So I'm in a hotel right now, so also excuse the audio if it sounds
No, it's
bad or
fine.
whatever. But I'd love a faux wood grain pattern. I think they should have done that for the Switch too.
Well, there was a faux cardboard pattern for that. Like, remember the Labo one?
Yeah,
That
which was
was,
super sick.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's one of the coolest
I,
Switches. And what? There's like 8 of them
if
out in
that,
the world or something like that.
yeah, it's just for a contest. If those had been sold at like just regular retail, I would have
Man,
bought
they would
those
have
for
sold
sure.
so many copies of that. People would have like
Um,
loved Labo at that point.
the other thing, of course, is like how many colorways of Joy-Con are there right now? At least a dozen.
Yeah,
So it's not
totally,
like
totally.
this is not a sort of
Yeah, yeah,
hard and fast and perpetual issue. Like that's
yeah.
going to be
Why are you
fixed.
underwater? What's going on?
Um, I don't know what fucking happened. I just noticed that. I'm like, what is happening here?
It does look
I,
like you're in the shape of water, Like it's just like
that wasn't
yeah.
happening a
Oh,
couple
there you go.
minutes
It
ago,
stopped.
was it? I don't know.
That's weird.
Again, I don't fucking know. I'm in a Holiday Inn Express right now.
Yeah, that's probably the bad
Um,
vibes.
yeah, they don't have a proper recording set up in the Holiday Inn
What the
Express,
hell,
and it's a
man?
shame. Um, so yeah, let's talk about Mario Kart
Sure.
here. I'm now we're coming at this from different ends of the street, I think,
Yeah,
because you like Mario Kart,
I
but
do.
Mario
Yeah.
Kart's that's not your jam.
No.
That's not your thing. Mario Kart is it was in my top 5 game franchises ever.
Yeah.
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Jean and I play. I would say, if you average it out every week,
Yeah. That's yeah.
since for years. And
Yeah,
and
for five
before I
years.
met
Yeah.
John, I was doing that with Laurel. So
Yeah.
and before Mario Kart 8 Deluxe came out, Laurel and I were playing Mario Kart 8 on Wii U.
Yeah.
So I've played. I would say that I've probably not gone more than 10 days ever in. And before that, I was playing Mario Kart 7 and
Sure.
DS
Sure. Sure.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
Wii. And I don't think I've ever gone more than like 10 days of my entire life without playing Mario Kart, which is a little bit of an exaggeration because
Yeah.
like I've traveled the world and haven't played Mario Kart in those times. But the point is, I adore Mario Kart. I am so, so, so happy and excited that assumedly the launch game is Mario Kart.
That does
For
seem to
me,
be what's indicated. Yeah.
for me personally, if I had to choose from me,
Hmm.
3D Mario or Mario Kart, I would choose
Yeah,
Mario
of course,
Kart.
because you can do it
I
for
didn't,
lunch. You can continue your weekly tradition. You have to play your stinky
and,
old
and
original Switch, or actually, well, technically, you could just put Mario Kart 8
yeah,
in the Switch too. So,
and I also was making the case. I was on Andres invited me on a stream recently. I was
yeah,
making the case for why Mario Kart, in some ways, is a very good launch title in that it immediately demonstrates the two-player capabilities of
totally.
the system.
Yep. Yep.
The
Yep.
the bigger SLSR buttons are intrinsically going to be far more comfortable for
Hmm.
playing Mario Kart than they were right now. I just really thought it would be 3D Mario. I'm curious what you make of Mario Kart being the game they showed off here. I'm curious if you agree with me that it is a launch game and just Tucker, hold on. Imagine that we're doing a relay race here.
Okay.
This is I
Take the
got a
stick and run
baton.
with
You're gonna
it.
take
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 the
the baton.
bar.
Yeah, take the baton.
Baton.
Yeah,
That's the word.
yeah. There we
Um,
go.
it's fine. The interesting thing about this is I wonder what it indicates for the rest of the launch lineup because with a multiplayer focused, a little more casual focused game, it does mean that there's
Yeah,
not a single player adventure game at the if we assume that Mario Kart 9, 10, whatever it is at the launch of the system. I don't think they would dare launch Mario Kart and Metroid on the same day. I think that would be a death sentence for
I don't think so at
Metroid.
all.
Why,
Think about
two
One Two
major
Switch.
games?
Yeah, think about how much One Two Switch sold. One Two Switch would not have sold half of what it sold if it wasn't a launch game. I think you got to think about the fact that
It only sold
you're
like
to
two
your
and a half
point.
million units.
Yeah, but it's I think it was over 3, but that's semantics at this point.
Yeah.
The point
Oh no,
is,
I'm thinking. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Arms. You're right. It's a little over three. It's like yeah, I'll say three and a half or something like that.
I mean, I think that first of all, I'm still of the opinion that Metroid Prime 4 is not coming to Switch 2.
I agree.
I
Yeah.
still I still think I think that February presentation is going to come out and date it for like May.
Yeah, easily. Yeah, but I absolutely think the game's coming out before Switch 2 does.
However, I think that you raise an interesting point, which is to say, what is that more core title?
Yeah, or if
Because
they even need
don't
one,
you,
frankly.
yeah, but the thing is they've always had it. I mean,
I know.
you could go back
Yeah.
generations. That's been the case. So I think they're going to have another.
Hmm.
I think it opens a window for this theory of Metroid Prime 2, Metroid Prime 4 being on Switch 2.
Yeah.
I think it opens a window for it, and I just simply don't think it would. I think it only be to the game's benefit.
Hmm.
However, I think you make the good point, and if we're both working on the assumption that it comes out before, I don't know what that other game would be.
Yeah. Like
It
because
could be
because
an
in the assumption that we're both working under that it comes out
yeah,
before Switch 2 and it is just primarily a Switch 1 game as far as I
yeah.
know that's all they've confirmed about that game. Um, then would Prime 4 Switch 2 version port skew
Well, here's the other thing.
remaster be available at launch?
Let's bring in our information. This game is made by Mario Kart, is
Yeah.
made by EPD9.
Hmm.
That's the Mario Kart team. Who is always at launch? EPD4.
Yeah. Yeah.
The interesting thing about it is that you can look at a pairing like Twilight Princess and
Wii Sports.
Wii Sports
Yeah.
and know very clearly which is the core game, which is the
Yeah.
casual game.
And Breath of the Wild
It's
one for the
obviously the same with
Switch.
yeah,
Uh,
but then there's
Mario
these
U and Nintendo Land is a little bit closer to a parallel of what we'd be maybe experiencing here.
and that's my point because
Yeah.
I think you can look at Mario Kart and say that that game pulls double duty as the
Hmm.
hardcore game and the casual game,
Sure.
the same way that
No doubt.
Mario
Yeah.
U did, and even to an extent Nintendo Land did.
Hmm.
I think that it would be unwise to not expect EPD4 at launch.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah,
wonder
I agree
if
with that.
in reality, if they have like a Switch Sports sequel or
Hmm.
something brand new, whatever it is, and they have two games that kind of play in both spaces,
Yeah.
that is the plan instead of looking at the paradigm of this is a multiplayer game Mario Kart and
Yeah.
then here's a single player game
Mm.
Metroid Prime. I don't know. I mean, we're gonna find out in April, but
Well, and
I
here's
think
another
that
interesting idea because I do want
yeah,
to mention the footage that we saw of Mario Kart. It looks fine. It honestly is not a it's not a major graphical upgrade, which is interesting. It really looks quite similar, like technically or fidelity wise. Obviously, we're working off of what less than 20 seconds worth of footage, so it's not like
yeah.
I have a ton going on there. There are some changes gameplay wise that we seem to have had hinted at that could be interesting. But what if, Abram, hear me out?
Yeah.
What if a big part of why Mario Kart 9, 10, whatever they call it, is such a big deal and why it works so well as a launch title is if there is some sort of adventure mode, Diddy Kong Racing style, or like a single player thing with some challenges or something that feels a little bit more substantial that could also act as that launch adventure game.
At Jordan Allman on Twitter, is the Nintendo Switch 2 Mario Kart game open world? The kart parts have specific names like red shell tires, spiny shell, and one up fuel.
Wait,
Could
wait,
be
wait.
modular.
It that's in the trailer?
Yeah,
They're cart parts? When do we see cart parts titled in the trailer? I need to rewatch it. What the hell?
yeah. You can. Let me actually. I'm just gonna link you to Jordan's thread here. It's very
Okay, excellent.
short, um, but you can look at this too. But the second point he raises is more compelling, I think, than the first. They start out on the Mario Bros. Circuit, but ride out into the desert, and there's a collectible at the Yoshi drive-through.
Oh.
Personally, I think a CTR style campaign with an AI Peloton scenario, or better yet, a collective online multiplayer like Test Drive would be pretty cool. Would certainly get me back into Mario Kart as a
Hmm.
single player experience rather than purely in group settings.
Hmm.
Now, I disagree with Jordan's premise that anything here implies open world,
Yeah.
and moreover, I think that having in universe brands on the different pieces that you can build your cart with, to me, is probably more of an aesthetic detail,
Sure.
just in the
Yeah, that's
sense
certainly
that
possible.
modular carts have been in the series obviously for many entries now, and moreover, like there are these brands in the universe of Mario Kart already,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it,
They're billboards
and
and
in
stuff. Yeah.
real and in real F1 racing or NASCAR, insert your favorite type of racing, all this shit's branded anyway. But the point he raises specifically about that collectible on the course,
Hmm.
I think is very shrewd. Because even if
Yeah,
you
it
look at
doesn't
the
look
pictures
like
he
a.
shared,
It doesn't look like a like question mark power up box.
and we'll link this Twitter post in the description
Yeah.
of this video
Mm.
so you can check it out as well.
I also like that
But that
the
trip,
drive through. It's a burger. It also looks like there's like
yeah,
neon lights that are like
it's a
cheese
Yoshi
and
head.
lettuce. Oh, and it's a
That's
whoa! It's a burger
yeah,
Yoshi. Whoa, crazy.
Whoa, a burger Yoshi explosion. That
Oh,
track
I
is
see. Oh,
also
literally
what?
the cart parts on the carts are labeled. Okay, I was thinking we saw like
Yeah, yeah.
a selection menu. That's why I was a little
No.
bit confused.
We also, that collectible is certainly not an item box.
Yeah.
That's not the Mario Kart item boxes look the same for every
Yeah,
entry
yeah,
of
yeah.
the series. They're not changing the shape of the item box. That's clearly a tease. I think this is a great point Jordan raises. The other big thing in here is that there's 24 lineup spots.
Mm-hmm.
If this is 24 play Mario Kart, that would be absolutely wonderful.
Yeah,
I think
I think that's
that
totally possible.
the yeah, the jump from 8 to 12 racers already, I think, made a massive difference in sort
Yeah,
of the chaos and the fun of Mario Kart. So jumping again to 24, I think is both would be a both great way to illustrate the a material difference between games and increase in power in the
sure.
system, and just simply add a deeper dynamic to the racing. And then you'd suppose there'd be more items and things to compensate. So I think that there's more in this tease than is initially apparent.
Yeah,
However, I also think that in the main, yeah, it's just Mario Kart, but
yeah,
it's also the first new Mario Kart now in
yeah.
11
Yeah,
years. So
I really do think there is another thing up this game's sleeve. I don't necessarily know if
I
I agree
agree.
with the open world thing, though I don't think that's impossible. I think that what
Yeah,
Forza Horizon has showed and games like The Crew is that there really is an appeal to a connected world that has races placed within it, having a cohesive sense of place. Mario Kart would be a
yeah,
little bit it'd be a little bit weird to do that given how fantastical the courses can be, but I do think even if this doesn't necessarily indicate an open world, maybe a hub world of some kind that connects to different races that has
yeah,
a little bit of light exploration, or maybe you can drive to a little section and that's where you do mini games or something. I think that that socially and structurally would
absolutely.
really make it feel like a step forward because Mario Kart has always just been beep beep beep, select your thing on the menu, select from the cups. But like if there is a little bit more pomp to it in like a place,
Yeah,
that would that touch would probably make it my favorite Mario Kart game immediately. I mean, we've talked before about how the ethereal nature of something like Kirby Superstar Ultra doesn't really appeal to me because it feels like you're just selecting things off a corkboard. And Mario Kart, I've never really thought about the fact that it was that because it has always been that.
it's a
But if
different style of game.
yeah, but if there is a little bit more cohesiveness to it, I would really be up for that.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, two details, of course. Mario Kart DS's mission mode. People have long wondered, well, where the hell did that go?
Yeah,
We also had a similar and I think less discussed mission mode because it was tied to online, which is obviously dead now.
yeah,
So they've fiddled this in the past.
yeah.
So I think, and obviously they put a lot of effort into reimagining battle mode for the Switch version of Mario Kart. So I think it's really always been on the mind
Mm,
of
yeah.
EPD9 that there's more to do
Mm-hmm.
with Mario Kart. And so I think that it's not beyond the realm of possibility at all that this is an indication of that. And moreover, the theming, to your point, in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is stronger than it's ever been, with the menu being associated with like Toad's Little Garage and things.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Obviously, this is
sure.
all aesthetic. It
Yeah,
doesn't convey a connected world
yeah.
really, but I think what it does is
It's close enough.
suggest to me that again, they're thinking about it.
Yeah.
Um, I have to love you and leave you soon, so I think we ought to give our final thoughts here on Switch 2, and then I imagine we'll be back in the coming days with some more talk about Switch 2
Yeah, I'm sure
some way or
there'll be
another. Maybe we can do a
details or
community.
oh,
Maybe details. We can do a community live
yeah,
stream and
yeah,
talk about it this weekend or something.
yeah. That'd
But
be great.
in the short term, I think to wrap up for me, obviously, I'm over the moon for Mario Kart. I'm over the moon for the Switch 2, and I mean, it's no great secret for as much as we talk about the industry in a very broad way and a deep way. My interest is primarily with
Yeah,
Nintendo. So
totally.
ultimately, to sit here on the precipice of the next generation, particularly after the last was so meaningful and
Yeah, of
so
course.
huge, I think it's just a really special moment. And even if it's not the way we thought it would happen, even if it's was impeded by leakers sort of at every step of the
Insane
way,
leakers. I mean, we saw the like design
yeah,
and like concepts of this console like actually 8 months ago, like the magnetic Joy-Con
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Like that's been around forever, dude.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's sort of yeah, we're coming to a day we're not surprised by,
Yeah,
but I didn't need surprise when I have this much excitement.
yeah.
And also,
You wish
Donkey Kong has new
Nintendo's.
eyes
Oh, that's true. Yeah, yeah.
in
His
Mario
design
Kart.
seems to be a little bit different.
I just wanted to mention that.
Um, you want Nintendo's slogan to be just delight. You don't care about the surprise part, even though that's half of their their mantra.
Well, the other thing is, and as we mentioned, I think the jury is out on the surprise. To me,
Oh,
the delight has
definitely
been
true.
provided
Yeah, yeah,
already.
yeah. Yeah,
But
fair enough.
in April, I think we could see that surprise. But
Yeah.
where do you want to leave it for
Well,
yourself?
I think that it needs to sit in for me. I've had a very
Sure.
interesting morning. I woke up at like 6 for some reason, or like even before that. I don't know why. Like I just woke up and I noticed that Bo was already streaming. I'm like, this motherfucker.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. It was 3 a.m. for him when he started streaming. That's crazy. And so I watched a little bit of that. I just like dicked around. Um, and then before my alarm went off, I set early to make sure that I was up if this happened. It was
Yeah.
announced. So I'm so glad that I was awake because I got a text from you. It was like, oh shit, it happened, and I like, well, I'm not even wearing pants
Yeah.
now, but like I put on my pants and like ran down the
Prove
stairs
it. Prove it. Prove it.
and powered on my computer. And then we recorded our reaction, and OBS didn't record my audio, and I don't know why. I saw my bar going up and down before I hit record, and for whatever reason it didn't matter. It also only recorded your audio and not the audio of the video, but they're both coming from the desktop. So like there clearly was something weird going on with OBS this morning.
Yeah. It's fine right now though. It's working properly at the moment.
I see both our bars going up and down, so I really hope when I hit
Okay.
stop
Well, thank you.
recording, there's audio on this. But
Yeah.
that really took the wind out of my sails. I was able to
Yeah.
recoup some of my energy and like future project me from like not being as frustrated by, if you watch my reaction, dubbing myself over in a sort of a goofy way, which I think is kind of fun and makes it a little bit special.
More special.
So maybe it's actually kind of nice that happened in some perverted way. But I also I've not been on Twitter. I've not watched anyone else's reactions.
Yeah.
I've not dug deep into the details of things like the thread that you sent me that showed there might be a little bit more excitement. I'm sure there are people theorizing and speculating and analyzing elements of what we saw on Switch 2 that might get me more excited. It needs to settle in for me. And I also think that my like momentum excitement is a little bit kneecapped by how far away that April thing is. Like that is a really big gap. Which is obviously they're not going to go completely silent. We have Pokemon news. We presumably will have another direct. So like I will be satiated, but like when all this news and all these leaks have been happening, and people are saying, yeah, late March, April, May, like, and then it's like, oh, the direct's not even until April. Oh, like that is a big like gut punch. Like no, oh. But it doesn't fucking matter. We're gonna get the system this year. It's gonna have a lot of interesting games. Only one of which we know about right now.
Yeah.
There still is Xenoblade and Pokemon and Metroid and many more Switch 1 games coming this year. It's gonna be a phenomenal year. It's going to change the texture of Nintendo. We're gonna have so much to talk about. We have officially entered the new era, and that's really exciting because we've been like peering into the new era through these leaks for so long that like. Again, relief is what I feel right now. I've not quite hit the like,
Sure.
oh shit, this is real and this is exciting, and like we've moved on to the next era. But like, oh, everything, it's all real. Nintendo actually finally spoke.
Yeah.
We can stop every hour. Like, what is Furukawa doing? Like the fervor. Here's the interesting thing. I actually think the fervor will have died down, like in like 3 days versus like the tension that was over the last 2 days. But it's neither here nor there. I'm glad it happened.
Yeah.
We had this fun discussion, and you need to go do shit.
I do. I do.
Bye.